Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Smalls That Sell. And for those of you out there that are new to the channel and this series and are wondering what this is all about, this series started with me showing and proving to you the power of selling smalls. And what I mean by that is smaller items that are easier to build, low cost, high profit. And the whole point that I was trying to make with that is you do not have to have all of this crazy fancy equipment and the top of the line tools to be successful with woodworking. The only thing that you have to have is the motivation and the belief in yourself to make this work. And if you have that and you're ready to use woodworking as a side hustle or even a full-time gig, then nothing can hold you back from success. And again, I'm not saying don't build large intricate items, tables and cabinets and furniture and things like that. Absolutely do that. Push yourself. But I'm just showing you a way to make some extra income while you're waiting for these larger items to sell. But you may find out, like a ton of other people that watch this channel, that you don't want to make these custom pieces that may take you weeks to make when you could have made 10 times that amount in that time frame just by making smaller projects that have a lower price point but a much higher profit margin. So what I do for this series is check out all of the big box stores and see what is hot right now and break down how they built those items so you can put your twist to it and make these at home for yourself or to sell. I have some super cool items that I've found to go over, so let's hop into this first one. Okay, so this first one that I'm going to talk about, they are calling wooden boot storage. All right, so the name for this may need a little help, but the concept is a great idea. And what makes this a great idea is that it is solving a problem. Again, people will spend money on things that solve problems, and boot storage is a problem. And they are wanting $65 for this thing that is simple to build, and you can build it for dirt cheap. So the one that they have shown here, there's actually only 3 different parts to this. So you have the base, which is 9 3/4 inches wide by 21.5 inches long. For me, I would just use a common square edged 2x10, then just make sure that the bottom is flat. It looks like that they use 3/4 or 1 inch material, but for boots, I would think that you want a little bit more weight. And then the only other thing that they've used is dowel rods. So this is either 7/8 or 1 inch dowel rod. Either would be fine, but the ones in the front, those are 13 inches long. And the ones in the back, those are 18 inches long. That's all that they have done is put 2-inch spacing between each one of these dowel rods, drilled holes halfway through the base, and then they want you to assemble this at home just by sliding your dowel into the hole and putting a screw in from the bottom. If you're going to ship something like this or you need to package it up, let's say to take it to a market or something like that, that is an excellent way to save some space. If not, I would go ahead and throw some wood glue around there as well. It never hurts. But the one thing that I would definitely change is the spacing. So we can make this just a little bit longer. Instead of using 2-inch spacing, let's do like a 3-inch space in between. Because look at the boots that they have on display here. Okay, so these are slim boots to start with, and they're going to have trouble fitting another set of boots on the dowels that are beside the boots that are displayed. So what I would suggest is drill down for your very first one in the corner, and then actually take a boot and put on that, and then check out the spacing to actually see how much room that you need between each dowel. So besides being a cool concept, it's not a new concept. These types of holders have been around for years. The difference is their marketing. It's definitely not the quality, because you can actually see in this picture where the dowels are either bowed in, or whenever they were drilling their holes, they actually drilled the hole crooked. Just don't do that. And if you do, don't sell someone your mistake, because like we have talked about before, your product is a reflection of your name. Okay, so back to the marketing part of this. They're calling this a burnt wood construction. Okay, so I know what they've done here. You know what they've done here, but it has nothing to do with the construction of this. So what I would do to get this look for the base is go ahead and get it sanded, get it routed. If you would like to put a routed edge, this one looks like that they just put a tapered edge. You can do that with a table saw or a circular saw, or if you just wanted to round the edges, it would still look fine. But get it sanded down the way that you would like and pull this little baby out. We've all seen it done before. They're just lightly burning this wood to cause the grain to pop like this, and it gives it a pretty cool look. Everything about this build is super simple to do, and I definitely think that it would sell. It's just an all-around useful item that if you stage this up and market it correctly, you have no trouble at all moving these things. Okay, so for this next one, yes, it's a cool build, but what caught my eye about this was the price and how many stores were actually selling the exact same thing. Whenever you see all the major big box stores selling something, that means it is hot. So these rustic wood pine trees, I've seen sets of 2 go from $188 to $280. Yes, these things are super cool. Yes, they're super easy to build. And I'm going to show you how to build one of these out of 1 fence picket. All right, so check it out. one fence picket. And the great thing is, with this design, you don't have to do any sanding. So all of this stuff that we would normally sand down or plane down or whatever for our picket builds, you do not have to do it for this one because this look is obviously what people are wanting. So although this is a simple build, if you are a plans in the hand type of person, then head over to the Etsy shop. I'll make sure to throw a link in the description. So let me tell you how I built this. So I started off by taking my fence picket and cutting 7.5 inches off the end. And that's going to be used for this bottom triangle. Once I had that 7.5 inches, I ripped this board down to 3.5 inches and then added 45-degree miters on each side. You'll end up with what I'm calling a filler board here on the bottom. And then the next thing that you need to do is head over to the table saw and rip what's left of your picket down to 2.5 inch strips. We'll be using that size for the rest of this build. Once you have your 2 strips cut, let's cut one that is 25.5 inches for your back support. Then you'll need 2 boards that are 8 inches long and 2 boards that are 7.5 inches long for your base. So starting with an 8-inch board for your base, you install that flush with the edge of the support on both sides. So both of these are 8-inch. And then with our 2 8-inch boards installed, we'll install our 7.5-inch boards going in the opposite direction. And it'll look something like this. So once you have your base installed to your support, now we can go ahead and attach our different limbs. So the first thing that I'm going to do is install this bottom board that we've already cut 9 inches up from the very bottom. And then with this installed, we can work off of it for the rest of our limbs. So if you notice, we almost have a herringbone pattern here. They're just butt joints all the way up. So in order to get 15 inches wide at the base, one side of this herringbone design will be shorter than the other side. So the long board closest to the bottom is 10 3/4 of an inch long. And for every limb that you cut, you will have one cut at 90 degrees and the opposite side cut at 45 degrees. Any measurement that I'm about to tell you will be from the square edge to the tip of the 45. So the long board on the bottom row is going to be 10 3/4 of an inch long, and the shorter board is going to be 7 3/4 of an inch. And then for the next row, the only difference is we're going to take off 1/2 of an inch from the previous row. So the long board for the second row is going to be 9 3/4, and the short board for the second is going to be 7 1/4. And then for every row after that, we'll just keep reducing the length by 1/2 of an inch. And you don't have to stop at 4 rows. You can make this taller. Just make sure that the base is wide enough to support the height. And if you wanted to make a set of these like they did, which is not a bad idea, they are the exact same width. It's just for the smaller one, they've left off the top branches. It's as easy as that. And for assembly, that's all that I use is wood glue and brad nails. So let's say that I wanted to make the same set that they are selling from $188 to $280. Essentially, I could build that set out of pine for $4 in material. Or if you wanted to go with cedar, it would be closer to $8. But even at $8, there's a ton of profit to be made with these things. And do not forget to shake things up. Add your own twist. Since these things are so cheap and easy to make, do not just make these in this natural color. These things would look awesome whitewashed and then sanded off a little bit. Or alternating colors for the different limbs. There's a ton of different color options that will work for this build. So make sure that whenever you're marketing these things, that you show several different colors in several different settings. That way that the customer can actually visualize where it's going to look best in their house or on their porch, and you're going to make some sales. So have you noticed, like most channels, I do not have a lot of paid advertising in the middle of my videos, as I personally don't like watching them and I don't like doing them. But as content creators, they're oftentimes necessary to allow us to do what we do. But one of the huge things for this channel that helps to keep me from doing in-video ads is the support from our Patreon community. So if we can keep growing that community, not only will you not have to listen to me talk about some magic hair growth formula or whatever, but it'll also allow me more time and focus to put back into the community. I'd much rather spend my time supporting those that support me than creating 60-second commercials for big corporations. But that's just me. So if the Patreon community is something that you may be interested in, check it out. I'll make sure to throw a link in the description. Okay, so for this next one, it caught my eye because it is unique. The P1 is calling this a retro freestanding bookshelf. Okay, so looks pretty cool. So not only does this item look awesome, but it look great in any color. Like right now, I'm picturing this with the white shelves with maybe a black base and a black back. And that's the great thing about building these things yourself, is that you're not limited to what the stores sell. You can put your own twist to it and come up with something that is even better than the big box stores are trying to sell. But this one that they are selling is 9.5 inches deep, it's 20 inches wide, and it's 45 inches tall. So how did they build this? Starting with the base, it's 1.5 inches thick by 9.5 inches wide. Again, I would use a 2x10, which is going to be 9¼ 9½ inches wide. But whatever the width of your base is, all of the shelves need to be the same width. And then for the backing, it's actually a wider piece of material. It did not say they most likely used a piece of plywood or MDF or something like that, but if you're going to stick with solid wood, you could use a 1x12. And the whole purpose of this backing is to provide support for all of these different shelves. So for the shelves, each one of these shelves are the exact same length as the base. We know our base is 20 inches, so let's make our shelves 20 inches. And again, if you're wanting to use solid wood for this, I would look at 3/4 inch by 10 inch wide pine shelving boards. Okay, so you know how I like to make little examples of things that I'm trying to explain, but essentially this is how they did it, except without the backing for now. So although almost every single part of this is at an angle, there's actually only one angle cut. That's what makes this project so simple. Your only angle cut will be your very first board, and it's going to be cut at a 45-degree angle. If it's too wide to fit your miter saw, this can easily be done with a circular saw. But once you have your first board cut, you would install that about 1/3 of the way in of the total length of your base. For this larger build, I'll go ahead and use wood glue, attach this from the bottom with screws, and then I would assemble the rest of this project laying flat. That way you don't have the weight of the entire build pulling on this one point because we do not have our backboard on yet. So with everything laying flat, all the rest of the pieces that you will need will be 20-inch pieces of the same board and all be put together with butt joints. So we would just find the center of our first board, mark that, install our second board, and then find the center of that board and keep going for how many ever tiers that you would actually like to make this. And you come up with something like this. Okay, so the only thing that it's missing is the backing. While it's laying flat, I would install your backboard, making sure that it goes all the way up to the top. Because remember, this is going to be your support system for all of these different shelves. Then pre-drill and use some wood glue and attach this backing to each one of these shelf levels as well as the base. This will tie all of this in together, making this bookshelf super sturdy. And you can see in this picture, they put screws in from the back of the shelf to help support every level that goes up. So they want $170 for this thing, and they guarantee that you can put this together in less than 25 minutes. So that means that they haven't used any wood glue or anything. It's just going to be flat packed and shipped out. But $170 for this kind of bookshelf, honestly don't think it's terrible. Will you have a hard time moving it for that price? Probably. For me in my area, and I'd put my own twist to it, I would try to move these for around $120 to $140 range. And this next one caught my eye because it would be a perfect pallet wood project and be super simple to build. It's a hanging mail organizer and key holder. Almost everything on here can be built out of a pallet. Okay, so for the backing, that's all that is 2x4s. They've taken 3 2x4s that are 18 inches long, and they've connected these together from the back just using a piece of scrap wood, glue, and brad nails. Looks like that the strips that they use to connect these in the back are about 1/2 inch thick. I'd make sure to put one about 6 inches down from the top and 6 inches up from the bottom. And then for the 2 side boards on the inside, those are 2x4s as well. They've just been ripped down to 2 inches thick and cut 9 inches long. And then to install those, I'd use wood glue, place those in the center of your edges, and put some screws in from the back. The bottom board of this little box actually creates a little lip in the front. It looks like that it's about 5 inches wide. So then you would just need to connect that to your 2 side arms. And again, from the bottom, just use some wood glue, screws, or brad nails. And then the front. This is actually a little board for chalk. So if you needed to write yourself a little reminder or whatever, you could do that. So all that they have done is taken a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, put some chalk paint on it. Once that's dried, nail that baby into place, throw on a few coat hooks at the bottom, and you're done. It's as simple as that. Again, this is another item that's so easy and cheap to build. I would do it in several different colors. They're getting $45 a piece for these things as is, and if staged and marketed correctly, I don't think that you would have any issue getting that yourself. Okay, so for this next one, it's not the item itself that caught my eye. It was the technique on how they made it. It is this chopping board. Okay, so I'm not saying go out and make these. I really don't know how well these things will sell. I did notice that instead of marketing this as a cutting board, it is a chopping board. That's because it has the raised edges. So when I first looked at it, I thought, well, this would be easy. You know, you can just cut this shape out and use a router to plunge down into the middle and cut that out. Well, then I noticed a little line at the bottom of this thing. Check this out. Okay, so this is actually 2 pieces, which is going to make it even easier. You don't even have to use a router. You can make this with a jigsaw. Okay, so use your imagination here. Okay, 2 pieces. So that's all that they have done is taken their 2 pieces, they've clamped them together or whatever, cut their shape, whatever shape that you want to make your chopping board, but they've cut their shape out, kept one solid piece as the bottom. Okay, so that's it for that one. And then for your second one, again, this is cut to shape. They have actually cut all the way through and left about 1/2 of an inch around the outside. That's all they did was glue it back to the original flat piece. That is a piece of pie. Let's say for this one, you can cut your outside design with a jigsaw, drill a hole in the center of this that's wider than your jigsaw blade, and then actually jigsaw out the inside of this as well. And a little bit of glue, you have a chopping block. I just thought I would share this because it's the first time I've ever noticed anyone using this technique, and it's not a bad one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I hope that you were able to see the potential in the power of selling smalls. So anything that I have just covered or have covered in previous episodes, you can build it. Most of these things can be built with basic tools that you have in your garage right now. You just need to take the first step, telling yourself that you can do it. Get out of your own head and have some confidence in yourself. Like I have said before, the only person that can keep you from success is the person that is looking back at you in the mirror. I have gotten messages from people that are missing fingers, hands, arms, legs, that have woken up to this message, started to believe in themselves again, and now have used their new skills to create a successful business. So what is your excuse? You don't have one now. That means today is the day for you to get up, get out, and create something. Till next time, we'll see you.